Hopefully I've given you a decent introduction to the pen tool. And you know, if you want to pause the video and if you want to mess around a little bit with the pen tool and kind of get a feel for it inside this blank file that you and I created, go for it. That's totally up to you. What I'm going to do though is I'm actually going to close this file and open up one of our project files. So I'm just going to hit Command W or Control W on the PC side there, and I'm not going to bother saving this file. And I'm going to hit Command O or Control O to head into my project files folder. And there's a file in here called Pen Tool Tutorial. Go ahead and find that guy and pop him open. Just wait for this file to open up. There he is. And I'll zoom in on this guy, Command plus or Control plus. Now, you can see that this file is broken into some different sections. We have straight paths at the top. We have creating curved paths in the middle. And then down towards the bottom, we have something called combo paths. Now, all of this might look quite daunting and possibly confusing, but that's why I'm here. I'm going to walk you through all of this. You're going to see exactly how this works. So what I'm going to do here is I'll zoom in just a little bit more, and I've zoomed in on the straight paths area. That's what we want to focus on here, at least in this exercise. And the idea here is that essentially we want to trace out these pre-created objects and lines and shapes that we have inside this project file, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with the very first guy here on the left-hand side, this diagonal line here. And I'm just going to simply follow the steps. So it says step number 1, click here. So I'm going to click inside this first box there. And of course, when I single click, I get my anchor point showing up there. And then what I'll do is I'll bring my cursor down to step number 2, and I'll click inside that box. And of course, as we already know, when I single click, I get a second anchor point and a path connecting the two anchor points together. Perfect. All right. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is actually quite important. Whenever you're finished creating a path and you want to go and start a new path, we want to go and start this next exercise here. What I need to do is I need to deselect the first path. Now, how do I do that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to hold down the Command key here on the Mac or the Control key on the Windows side and single click. So you might want to jot that down or add that to your notes if you're taking notes. Whenever you want to deselect a path, all you need to do is hold down Command or Control and simply single click in some white space away from your path, and that'll deselect it. Okay, great. Now let's go and tackle this guy here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to single click on step number 1. Now, what I want to do though is I want to create a perfectly straight line here. I don't want it to be off at all. I want it to be perfectly straight, perfectly vertical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor down to number 2. And what I'm going to do is hold down Shift and then single click. So when I hold down Shift and I click, what happens is the path and the anchor point snap to the nearest 45-degree angle. So, you know, you might want to experiment with that a little bit. I'm going to hold down Command or Control and just deselect by clicking inside some white space. Now, as I say, you might want to experiment a little bit. I could single click over here and then hold down Shift and single click over here. So I have a perfectly straight horizontal line. I'll deselect that again by Command or Control clicking. Or what I could do is I could single click over here and then hold down Shift and then bring my cursor down and to the right just a little bit and single click. And again, what happens is it snaps to the nearest 45-degree angle. That's how that works, right? So again, I got a perfectly straight horizontal line. If I bring my cursor maybe down this way and single click, now I have a perfect 45-degree angle line. That's how that works, right? It's all about holding down Shift and clicking if you want those perfectly straight lines. Okay, great. You might want to mess around with that a little bit. I'm going to move on, though. I'm going to go and tackle my final exercises here for the straight paths. This next guy is a little bit weird. All of the paths that you and I have created together so far have been open lines, haven't they? Well, this is now the first closed shape that you and I have created together. So here's how it's going to work here. I'm going to start off on number 1. I'll single click. I'll head up to number 2 and single click. Same story as always, right? Anchor points and paths, no big deal. I'm going to go down to number 3 and single click. There we go. Another anchor point with another path. And then here's where it changes. Here's where things get a little bit different. To close off my shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor, my pen nib, over top of the original starting point, the original anchor point that I had first created. And you'll notice right beside your cursor, right beside your pen nib, you get a little donut, you get a little circle there. And that indicates that you're about to create a closed shape. So when you see the little donut beside your cursor, go ahead and single click. And now we have a closed object. Okay, awesome stuff. One more to go here. We have sort of this zigzag line happening here. And again, I'm just going to follow the steps here with you. All of these are perfect 45-degree angles, by the way. So a lot of shift clicking is going to go on here. So I'll start off on number 1, single click, hold down shift and single click on number 2. Hold down shift again and single click on number 3. I'm still holding down shift and I'm going to go to number 4. And then, of course, finally down to number 5. And that's all there is to it. Great. So if you made it, if you got all the way to the end, don't forget to deselect by holding down Command or Control and clicking inside some white space. All right. So creating straight path segments with the pen tool is all about single clicking. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about curved path segments. And this is where people usually start to have a little bit of trouble with the pen tool, but hopefully I'll be able to walk you through it nice and simply.